Good afternoon, Mutevo. Well, from the sound of what the opposition political parties, including those, some who are in the GNU, it seems like it's going to be more of the same. And something that we haven't touched on, Mutevo, this morning throughout the coverage and the build-up is where the money comes from. Of course, revenue collection is SARS's prerogative. And how have they been doing for that? I'm bringing in a Chief Economist at Citadel Investment Services, Maarten Ackerman. Maarten, thank you so much for your time. All of these whims and wishes of political parties, South Africans from all walks of life, Labour that we saw marching to the steps of Parliament, are not possible without collecting the revenue to see to it that these projects are actually implemented. How are we doing, seeing how the SARS commissioner has reported? How are we doing when it comes to collecting the revenue here in South Africa? Are we going to meet the targets?
Yes, good question. I think we could probably do better. We will probably get close to the targets. And I must say that SARS are doing much better these days. They are improving a lot of their systems. They are looking at what I call revenue slippage, where in the past they probably didn't get all the revenue. Thinking about local trusts, there's a lot of legislation going out in terms of making sure that, for example, if there's beneficiaries, distributions to beneficiaries, that is also taxed, and it's part of the beneficiary tax filed to SARS. So. But it takes time to implement that. We also know that SARS are making more use of artificial intelligence. So they are using all the tools they do have to try and increase the efficiency of revenue collection. But if we just step one moment away from just the collection part of it, the actual question should be that how can we increase the total revenue? Whether we only collect 80% of it or 90% or 60%, but if we can increase the total revenue base, a lot of the problems will be resolved, and that boils down to economic growth. And we've been talking about that so many times. How do you get economic growth going? As we stand right here, there's big expectations for growth next year, but currently the growth is still very, very low. And that's got a direct impact on even the ability to collect revenue. And that puts government again into a corner in terms of being reliant on debt, unfortunately.
Would you tax the rich more? We are not expecting to hear any new or groundbreaking tax moves or policies right here. That is the job of the February budget. What would you do differently to get that money into the coffers of government?
Yeah, I think good question. I don't think we need to change any tax rates, whether it's for the rich, for corporates, for VAT or anything like that. In fact, many of those are already very high relative to the rest of the world and our peer group. So again, it goes back to if we can lift the base for everybody, we can get economic growth to, let's say, 3.5%. We create more jobs. Those people get part of the economy and they can start paying tax. That is really the way to do it. So the focus should be on where do governments spend, so that the spend is not just, it is important to spend on the social side, given where we are as a country, but it can't just be social support. We need to look at, there's talks about infrastructure development, but more specifically, how do we remove the red tape to get business going? How do we remove the logistical bottlenecks at the ports, at the train stations, so that we can get economic growth going? So the silver bullet for the budget for the last couple of years been to get economic growth going, because then you resolve many of those issues.
Maarten Ackerman is a senior economist with Citadel Investment Services. Thank you so much for your time.